So last week I posted a video about a little sister out of Folsom High School, and this little girl, she was being targeted due to her being black, and that particular school and even that town had about 3% of the black population. The rest was mostly, them, right? So, my particular motto has always been never stay in places where your population is in single digits. It's not really going to be that good for you because when you have more of them in the population, they usually get bold with their particular brand of white supremacy. Well, I received a message on my LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn is for business, okay? It's not really for regular messaging, connect with people. And I've, met some good people on LinkedIn. And to be honest, I haven't got one of these messages in a long while, actually. So, this one caught my attention. And then this particular Karen here, she not only sent the same message to my LinkedIn, she also sent it to my email. So, she was making sure that I received this message. So let's go through this. So she said, "Hi, I'm concerned about the young black girl who was harmed by the white thugs at Folsom High School. I find it incredible that she did not tell her mother until she was traumatized. Until she was traumatized. See, the thugs are not white supremacists. You and your people are taking the term white supremacist too far. Here is why." Kay, aka Karen, in the story, if you really chose to listen to that story in its entirety, the young girl said that she was called racial slurs. If anyone is using racial slurs toward black people of your said group, it makes you white supremacists. See, y'all like to play a game where you try to label, people like the Proud Boys and all those groups like that. You try to label them as white supremacists. And no, they're white supremacist extremists. That's what they are. No, white supremacy is in every facet of America. And the fact is, Karen, these kids in the school was raised by women within your community, women like yourself. You okay? Those kids that are raised in your household, they didn't come into the world acting that way. This is something that's within your culture that you've been doing for hundreds and hundreds of years. Okay. Y'all are the mothers of white supremacy. When children are born into the earth, the mother is the first teacher of the child, not the father. So since the mother is the teacher of the child, Karen, you are the mother of white supremacy. And the reason why you don't want us as black Americans calling out white supremacy is because it is better that we don't identify it and keep it in the shadows. Hence to why these Republicans are trying to stop the teaching of American history, which is full-fledged white supremacy. Even they said they established this country based on white supremacy. So that term and even that ideology is in the foundation of America. So we can't get away from that. Why don't you want truth expounded upon? We will ask this question from the black delegation. Now she says, "What do you call a black thug who threatens your life at work? Do I call him a black supremacist? We know your track record of lying. So I would like to see proof of what this guy allegedly done to you. But let's call that what it is. Calling someone black and a supremacist doesn't even make sense, because black people on average, no matter where they come from, they're not trying to control and dominate and oppress people based on skin color. They're not trying to do that. None of us even think that way at all. We're not trying to dominate resources. We don't feel that we're superior to anybody. We don't feel that we should control every aspect of everybody's lives based on the simple fact that we're black and we're superior. We have never practiced that. That comes from you and your culture, Karen. That's where it comes from. Okay. So I think it's very silly to even try to bring up that term. So no, you could not call him black supremacist because no quote unquote thug I've ever met in the street have ever thought that they were superior based on their skin tone. That comes from you and your culture. Okay. She continues to say, no, he's a thug has been taught hatred toward whites by his or your people. Now you're projecting. And the reason why you're projecting is because black American people, Africans, whoever else, we don't teach hatred of people based on skin color. We don't raise our kids to use slurs by the age of 2. We don't do that. Even though your people has done the most horrible things to us as black people, we still don't raise our kids to call you slurs based on your skin tone. That's something that you and your people have been doing for hundreds upon hundreds of years. So no, you're completely projecting by that comment. She continues to say, at work, a young black thug put his hand to his head, a gun gesture, and told me he wished I was dead. He said, your people are going after whites in the workforce. That's also a lie, because if a black person even sneezed wrong, they fired. If a black person is late one time, maybe 2, they're fired. And for sure, if this alleged person made a gun gesture to their head, they will fire them about workplace violence. So that I know, once again, you are lying. You are completely lying. And we know the history of lying that goes along with your ilk, because people like yourself, Karen, has caused whole riots off of lies. People in my community have been terrorized and done the most horrible things ever based off of lies. So I'm detecting that same pattern of lying, ma'am, that goes along with the culture that, you practice, right? He said, I was ousted from another job by a black manager because I was not a good fit. Is exactly what HR said to me. Well, black people have been told that forever. And the one time you were told you wasn't a good fit, it's a problem. Maybe you wasn't a good fit, allegedly, because we don't know if this is true or not. I would like to know who the black manager was and why you wasn't a good fit. See, that is that supremacy that's in you. Think that every job that you go to, you should get it. But black people hear that all the time, that you're not a good fit. Maybe you wasn't a good fit for that particular job. Have you ever thought about that? Maybe you didn't have the qualifications. Maybe you didn't have the education. Maybe you didn't have the temperament. Maybe you didn't have the experience. There's a whole lot of things that maybe you just didn't have and you didn't measure up. But in your mind, it didn't matter about that. You should just get a job anyway. Well, welcome to the world of being black. We hear that all the time. Now, of course, I would say this allegedly. He said, exactly. She said, what? He said, hold on. He said, I know black ministers are preaching the hatred of whites. That is a lie. A lot of black ministers in America still got a big picture of white Jesus on the wall. They're not preaching hate to nobody. Not at all. No, none are preaching that whatsoever. That's a lie. He said, I read an article by a black minister named Daryl. Okay, Daryl who? Who's Daryl? You just mentioned Daryl and not give us his name so we can go research him. He put a sentence in there that made me think he wanted his people to fight to the death against white people. No, maybe he said white supremacy, but not that. He said MLK would be extremely disappointed at all sides if he lived today. No, he'd be more disappointed in you, because when he wrote that letter from the Birmingham jail, and he talked about the white moderate was the most dangerous one out of all of them, not the conservative, not the liberal, but the moderate. He would be disappointed because his people didn't get their check that he was trying to get for his people prior to him passing away. And he passed away because of the people in your community, ma'am, decided to, shoot down one of the most peaceful black Americans that ever walked this country. Many people in your community have said, be more like Dr. King. If you guys just wouldn't be in the streets doing those things and you were like Dr. King, he was so peaceful. He wanted to pray. He wanted to sing. He wanted to march. He let y'all put dogs on him. He let y'all put water hoses on him. Y'all have done the horrible things to the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And peaceful as that great brother was, now he's an ancestor. Your people, ma'am, end up killing him anyway, in the most coward way, shooting our brother in the neck. When he just want to do right by his people. And not even just by his people. At that point, he was talking about poor people. You understand what I'm saying? So it was just not even black people. But when he started talking about getting that check, that was a problem. That comes from your culture, ma'am. We don't have a history of as black American people of taking out peaceful people who just want to do the right thing. We don't have that kind of history. We don't do that. You did it to Malcolm X. You did it to all kind of people. Now she says, I don't ever see racism going away ever. You're right. I don't. As long as your culture is in charge of America, you're right. It will never go away. I'm with you 100% because I know that it's just what you practice. Okay, you can't help it. It's just what it is. You have to. You think that you're superior to everybody based on skin tone, and that relates to your governance. So of course, it's not going to go away. It will go away when you're out of leadership. That's when it will go away. When the majority of the country is ran by people who don't think that way. Which I say, if black people was to take control of America in every sense, form, or fashion, that immediately will go away because we'll have it out of every governance, right? Black people is really the only people that can save America. But the way it goes with your culture, you rather America go the way of Rome before black people take over and save America. So she continues to say, what I do know is that Jesus is going to sort out the good from the bad on Judgment Day. Ma'am, for you to bring up Jesus, do you really want to go there by Judgment Day? Jesus sorting out the good and the bad. Let's talk about Jesus for a minute. Let's go to church here for a minute. Let's talk about Jesus. You know, you couldn't even follow the 10 Commandments. Let's talk about that. Just the 10 Commandments. Now the simple things that God asks you to do. Look at what you and your culture has done to God's children. And what I mean is the black man and black woman of America. You understand? Now, let's talk about that. First commandment, he told you, is He is the Lord thy God, and thou shalt not have any gods before me. You have fashioned yourself as a god. When you said that you're superior to other people based on skin tone. So you made yourself a god in the world through white supremacy. So you're in violation of that commandment. You say thou shalt not take the Lord's name in vain. You do that all the time. You say remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. You don't remember anything. Everything for you is capitalism and money 24/7. You say honor their father and mother, that your days be long on the earth. You know that. You don't do that. You don't do that whatsoever. We know you don't do that. We know. Okay. Say you shall not murder. Now, should we even go there about all the bodies and innocent blood has went its way all the way up into the heavens? Do you really want to talk about judgment? Committing adultery? You know, like I said, the men in your community, what they have done, to even to their own wives during slavery with my ancestors. Y'all created a whole different color scheme of people. Prior to slavery, we didn't have all these light-skinned people running around. But after slavery, when they took a census, they had 600,000, quote unquote, what you call today, well, they say mulatto back then, but biracial people today running around. That was offspring of the slave master. A whole class of people. And most of those people were married at the time. What are you talking about? Then you're talking about not stealing in the 10 Commandments. You done stole black people. You done stole resources. and stole everything. How dare you try to sit up here and talk about what God is going to judge? You shouldn't be bearing false witness against your neighbor. Lying constantly, obviously. You know that's been going on. And not coveting your neighbor's property. Well, you didn't do too well on that, because you can look at all the different lands that you stole and colonized. You coveted people's resources. You coveted people's land. You coveted people's cultures. You covered people's lingo. You covered everything. What are you talking about, ma'am? I wouldn't bring up Jesus in judgment. That's not a good thing to go, because you're going to lose that argument every single time. And then she says, and ministers of colors, whites included, are going to be judged very harshly for the preaching of hatred. See, people like yourself, even if a white person, like a decent, good white person, speaks against white supremacy, to you, they're speaking hatred. I've noticed that. Every white person that tried to do good things, even in the history of America, you don't honor them. You don't speak up for them at all. You act like those white people who are good people that fought for freedom and fought for justice and fought for equality. You would think they would never exist. You don't even want them spoken of. You would think that you would want people who fought against, injustice that are white to be like really, in that conversation. But people in your community make sure to forget those white people. It takes black people to bring up those white people who fought and even died for, freedom and fight against white supremacy. In your mind, speaking against white supremacy is hatred. Understand? So I would make a video like that if you raise your children better. Teach your children outside of the culture that you have taught them for hundreds and hundreds of years. Because the way things are going in America and throughout the world is becoming more global. The world's becoming more connected, and your ideals are being looked at as very not wanted, archaic, violent, and people just moving and shaking a lot different now. Your ideals are going the way of the past, and you can try to put in CRT laws and all of that to try to stop the teaching of American history. We got the internet. You can't stop that. You can't. Now y'all don't even want the Holocaust even being taught. You can try to stop everything that you want to be taught, but at the end of the day, you are solidified in world history as a people with a culture that violated every commandment in the Bible. You have no room to talk. You have no room to judge. If anything, you need to repent and do right by black people, treat black people right, pay black people reparations, and just ask God whatever else he thinks you should do to make things right for black people before you're judged, ma'am, before you go to hell with gasoline draws and a gasoline bra. So I wouldn't suggest sending me messages like this, because this is a message of a projection. This is a message of you feel convicted because you know the way that the children in your community are raised. You know this, okay? So I just want to share that with y'all, ladies and gentlemen. This message that was sent to me by this Karen here. And yes, I know what she looked like, but no, I'm not gonna put her picture up there because they start crying when you really put them on that on the jumbotron, right? But this is what I deal with behind the scenes sometimes. So I haven't done this in a while, like showing y'all some of these messages I get from these people. But yeah, it's just a learning experience. It's just a learning experience of delusion, projection. I can clearly see she's lying. Won't give me whoever this so-called preacher is. We know I preach on the worst on their worst day. Never would teach hatred of anybody. You know that. So they love them folks too much. What you talking about? Please. Our people, the last ones is teaching that. That comes from they people and they preachers, right? We have cover stories where they preachers have been teaching to have a evil sentiment against black people. But it's your first time coming here. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for visiting us today. for our podcast, make sure you subscribe, because subscribing, you'll know exactly when we're going to post something here. Make sure you click the like button so we could, get the likes up. Definitely helps us, the video gets spread into the algorithm here on YouTube. And if you enjoy the video, donate a love offering. Love offerings definitely help us with equipment, internet, keeping the lights on, etc. So thank you for listening, and see you next time.